There is a highly aggressive solvent that costs exactly $5. It violently melts thick carbon sludge inside your vehicle engine. It restores completely choked oil passages to factory flow rates. No expensive dealership engine flush services. No tearing the heavy engine block completely apart. No paying thousands for a massive mechanical rebuild. Just a cheap clear liquid, a warm engine, and 15 minutes. Quick lube shops charge $200 for a premium engine flush. They tell you heavy sludge is a completely incurable disease. They tell you a $4,000 engine replacement is absolutely inevitable. They are lying strictly to protect their massive service invoices. This $5 solvent aggressively dissolves the carbon bonds of engine tar. It chemically returns the solid sludge back into a liquid state. It is completely safe for your internal engine seals. It costs less than a single quart of premium synthetic oil. The automotive industry actively created this exact mechanical disease. They engineered the sludge problem to sell you new vehicles. 2 decades ago, mechanics recommended oil changes every 3,000 miles. Engines routinely lasted for hundreds of thousands of miles without issue. But modern vehicle manufacturers suddenly changed the official maintenance manuals. They heavily advertised a highly destructive 10,000-mile oil change interval. They claimed modern synthetic oil was completely indestructible and flawless. That is an absolute and verifiable mechanical fabrication. They pushed the intervals to lower the advertised cost of ownership. They wanted to appear heavily environmentally friendly on paper, but they knew exactly what happened inside the dark engine block. They knew the oil would violently bake into thick solid tar. They mathematically calculated exactly when the engine would finally choke. They timed the catastrophic failure perfectly outside the warranty window. The dealership charges you $200 for a chemical flush to delay it. Then they charge you $4,000 to replace the dead engine entirely. They built a massive financial empire on dirty motor oil. A $5 raw solvent that prevents this death entirely is a threat. They deliberately buried the raw chemistry to protect their service bays. Let me take you back to massive industrial farming. During the heavy agricultural boom of the mid-20th century, massive diesel tractors ran at full throttle for thousands of hours. The intense internal engine heat baked the motor oil continuously. Heavy black tar quickly coated the heavy iron internal components. But early farmers did not tear the massive engines apart. They absolutely refused to pay expensive mechanics for simple cleaning. Industrial operators relied heavily on raw aliphatic petroleum distillates. They called it mineral spirits or heavy refined kerosene. They poured a massive dose of this raw solvent directly into the oil. They idled the heavy tractors for exactly 15 straight minutes. The aggressive solvent violently attacked the hardened oil deposits. It literally melted the thick black tar off the iron walls. When the farmers pulled the heavy oil drain plug underneath, the solid sludge poured out smoothly as a thin black liquid. The massive iron engines ran flawlessly for another entire decade. The solvent that saved agricultural empires costs mere pennies per ounce. But the modern quick lube industry looked at your ticking engine. They chose to sell you a heavily diluted and overpriced chemical trap. Before we expose the exact chemical breakdown, listen closely. This dissolved engine sludge secret is just one single layer. The automotive cartel is actively hiding hundreds of permanent mechanical fixes. The massive oil companies are intentionally burying cheap alternative solutions. This channel is dedicated strictly to exposing every single lie. We are currently uncovering the $3 clogged catalytic converter chemical. We are releasing the absolute off-grid water purification blueprints soon. Hit the subscribe button right now to secure your financial freedom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Do not let them keep you completely dependent and financially drained. But absolutely, do not close this video right now. We are about to dismantle the massive quick lube cartel completely. What actually causes this thick black sludge to form? Your engine operates at roughly 220 degrees Fahrenheit every day. The motor oil is constantly subjected to massive mechanical shearing forces. When you force oil to survive for 10,000 miles without changing it, the chemical additives inside the oil completely and utterly fail. The oil begins to rapidly oxidize under the intense engine heat. It physically transforms from a slippery liquid into a solid carbon tar. This thick tar begins to travel through the internal engine block. Your engine contains microscopic oil galleries, thinner than a human hair. These tiny passages strictly deliver oil to the rapidly spinning camshafts. The thick tar violently clogs these microscopic oil galleries completely. The critical metal components are suddenly starved of lubrication. Raw metal violently grinds against raw metal thousands of times per minute. The internal engine temperature spikes to catastrophic failure levels. You hear a loud metallic ticking sound from under the hood. By the time the dashboard check engine light finally illuminates, the massive mechanical damage is already completely done. The quick lube technician points to the thick black sludge. He treats an intentional engineering flaw, exactly like your personal fault. So how does a $5 solvent completely reverse this massive damage? Aliphatic petroleum distillates are a highly aggressive, non-polar solvent. When you pour this pure clear liquid into the dirty motor oil, it physically circulates through the entire pressurized oil system. It aggressively hunts down the thick, oxidized carbon deposits. The chemical does not merely break the sludge into large, dangerous chunks. Large chunks would instantly clog the oil pump pickup tube. Instead, the nonpolar solvent violently attacks the sludge at the molecular level. It systematically dissolves the heavy carbon bonds holding the tar together. It forces the solid black sludge to chemically liquefy immediately. The tar completely dissolves back into the flowing motor oil. The microscopic oil galleries are violently flushed, completely open. The heavy carbon deposits are entirely suspended in the liquid fluid. The critical mechanical components receive full pressurized lubrication once again. This is not a temporary band, aid masking the metallic ticking sound. This is a permanent chemical restoration of the internal fluid dynamics. Mechanical engineers have verified this specific nonpolar reaction for decades. Every expensive branded engine flush relies entirely on this exact chemical. Why is this raw solvent not aggressively advertised in auto parts stores? Let us look precisely at the brutal economic reality of engine repair. A quick lube franchise relies entirely on heavy chemical upselling. They buy raw aliphatic solvents in massive 55-gallon industrial drums. They pump roughly 15 ounces into a tiny branded plastic bottle. They charge you $200 for a 3-step professional engine cleaning service. They generate a highly lucrative and staggering 1,000% profit margin. A professional dealership engine flush costs $200 and lasts 12 months. This raw aliphatic solvent costs $5 and cleans the engine forever. A complete mechanical engine replacement costs $4,000 and requires weeks. This chemical fluid dynamics repair costs $5 and takes 15 minutes. You absolutely cannot build a massive franchise on raw, unbranded chemicals. You cannot charge a massive labor rate for simply pouring a liquid. If every driver in America bought a gallon of mineral spirits, the quick lube upselling industry would lose billions in a single month. They survive strictly because you do not understand basic chemical composition. They survive because you inherently panic when the engine ticks. You are exactly funding their massive expansions and new waiting rooms. When you flush the system yourself, you become entirely free. So how exactly do you melt this engine sludge today? Here is the strict and unforgiving protocol to flush your engine. Go immediately to any large hardware or home improvement store. Walk directly into the massive paint preparation and thinner aisle. Look for a metal labeled as 100% pure mineral spirits. Make absolutely sure it contains pure aliphatic petroleum distillates. A large metal quart of this raw solvent costs roughly $10. That equals roughly $5 for the exact dose your engine needs. Park your heavily sludged vehicle on a completely flat concrete surface. Ensure the engine is completely warmed up to normal operating temperature. Turn the vehicle completely off and open the main hood. Remove the plastic oil filler cap on top of the engine block. Pour exactly 16 ounces of the pure mineral spirits directly inside. Replace the heavy plastic oil cap and start the engine again. You must let the engine idle for exactly 15 straight minutes. Do not rev the heavy engine, and absolutely do not drive the vehicle. The oil is temporarily thinned out to dissolve the heavy carbon. After exactly 15 minutes, turn the vehicle completely off again. Immediately drain the hot motor oil from the bottom of the oil pan. The oil will pour out incredibly fast, completely black, and highly liquid. The heavily dissolved sludge is completely leaving your engine block forever. Replace the old oil filter with a brand new premium filter. Fill the heavy engine with completely fresh, high-quality synthetic motor oil. You just saved yourself $4,000 using a basic paint thinner. This chemical flush is much more than a simple mechanic trick. This is a glaring rejection of an incredibly destructive corporate timeline. Every time a massive industry standardizes a highly destructive maintenance schedule, they deliberately design your property to fail at a highly profitable moment. They replace resilient maintenance with incredibly expensive and temporary manual labor. They train their service writers to aggressively sell heavily diluted chemicals. They rely entirely on your inherent fear of massive internal engine failure. They want you completely and utterly dependent on their service bays. Industrial engineers build heavy machines designed to last for multiple generations. The automotive industry actively ignored that resilient maintenance on purpose. They engineered a massive financial dependency that did not need to exist. That vicious cycle of corporate extraction ends right here today. You now possess the exact chemical blueprint to armor your engine block. Share this critical knowledge with every single driver you know. Send this to anyone who has a ticking or high-mileage engine. Do not let them steal another hard-earned dollar from your family. Take back absolute control of your own vehicle maintenance. But this is only the fifth step in our massive investigation. There is another heavily guarded mechanical secret you need to see. A $3 liquid that permanently unclogs completely choked catalytic converters. The massive exhaust replacement industry prayed you never discovered this chemistry. Click the video on your screen right now to uncover it. Starve the massive corporate system that violently bleeds you dry. The next vault is officially open.